I want to push maybe to the next question, which is this question about the intra-Palestinian thing, which I think, a lot of us, it's either maybe don't understand enough or it's frustrating to try to think about, which is during this, we're talking about pre-October 7th, in the kind of lead up to this, maybe the previous decade or so. What is this relationship? So Hamas kind of comes out in October 7th. To a lot of people, they had kind of receded, let's say, at least to a lot of people, into the background a little bit. And you hear about the squabbles between Fatah and Hamas and the PLO and the Palestinian Authority and all these different things. And can you just kind of lay a little bit, map out a little bit this relationship between Hamas, Fatah, within the larger kind of PLO umbrella, in a sense, and what role the Palestinian Authority kind of plays in this? So knowing that Mahmoud Abbas kind of fills several roles within the PLO, the PA, Fatah, etc. Can you just explain a little bit that relationship?
Yeah. So, history is not going to look back at Mahmoud Abbas very kindly. No, and I don't think it should. I think that. So let me step back for just a moment. When I was talking earlier about how prepared the Palestinian technical team was, and I mentioned that may not have been the case when it came to the actual negotiators themselves. That is definitely the case, but it's more than that. It was more than that. The Palestinian Authority, in the way that it was set up, particularly in the aftermath of Abu Ammar's, Yasser Arafat's death, has been a scramble for not only to control, but also in a way to control the people who. It's like you look around when you live in the West Bank and say, control what and why? And it's like vying for political power where there is none, really. And so the relationship let's say pre-October the 7th, from 2007, we had our elections in January of 2005 where Abu Mazen was elected. At the end of this month, Abu Mazen will have been in office for 19 years. He was only elected for a 4-year term. And then in January of 2006, we had our parliamentary elections. Again, it was only supposed to be a 4-year term. It's lasted definitely much longer than that. When Hamas was elected in 2006, much of the reason that Hamas was elected in 2006 was because it was a vote for Hamas, but it was also a protest vote against Fatah, because people didn't see that Fatah had done anything for people in the years from 1993 until 2006. And I have to say, I share that same perspective. When you look around as a Palestinian and you see that, okay, they can't control the occupation, but they certainly could have done more to challenge it. They certainly could have done more to defy it. They certainly could have done more to fix things up internally. And they chose not to because they liked that system of chaos. They liked that system in which Israel gets to choose the interlocutors. They like the system of being appointed as being, who gets appointed and who doesn't get appointed. And that framework has remained to this current day. So if you look at from the period of 2007, which is when Hamas ousted Fatah from the Gaza Strip, until the current day, all we've seen is that Abu Mazen has spent the past 16 years talking about reconciliation, but doing absolutely nothing about reconciliation. And what he's done instead is he's done everything to appease the Americans, and the Americans in turn have turned him into persona non grata. I mean, he was a nothing on October the 6th. It was actually Blinken who revived Abu Mazen's political life after coming to visit him in early October, after the events of October the 7th. And so it's been living here, you see that Abu Mazen has just spent year after year after year doing everything in his power to retain power, doing nothing to make sure that there's a living legacy for Palestinians, politically, economically, in institutions, you name it. And instead, he spent all of these years in office just simply fighting Hamas. That's all he's done. And he does this in a variety of ways, Karim. So he does this by wearing different hats. Like one day he's the head of the Palestinian Authority. Then the next day he issues a ruling or an order or whatever as the head of the PLO. Or the next day he does it as the head of Fatah. And so it's like that game that, we used to play when we were kids where there's the shells, the 3 shells, and there's a ball under one of the shells, and they just like switch the shell, they switch the shells around. And you're supposed to guess which shell it's under. That's what he does. That's his political life. It's like, oh, look, there it is. It's under, this is the shell of the day. And that's what it means to have this. We're in shambles, to put it mildly. And I can go in deeper and talk about the battles that are happening internally in Fatah. I know less about the Hamas side. And I can certainly talk about that, but it's all to say, no matter what you look at, it all goes back to Abu Mazen. That in these 19 years of being in office, he hasn't done anything other than create a system of chaos and tear down the infrastructure and the political system that so many people fought to create when we were actually in exile rather than in our homeland.